Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Let's Play Warcraft 3.
At last. No one orders me around.
I thought our new friend would be arriving a little bit more quickly.
Behold, the Frostworm.
There you
These
are!
undead dragons are the Lich King's favored pets. This one shall serve us well.
Oh, Frostworm, where'd you have to show up so late to the party? Made me feel a little bit awkward there for a second. Oh, we got Frostworms now. We got my sweet, sweet babies. Oh, we have them now.
At last.
Look at them, those big skeletal fucking dragons. Oh, they're sick. So, we are actually going to be able to make some use of gargoyles this time, unlike in the last mission. You know, even though they were introduced, they were kind of playing a scouting role before. We pushed up a little bit too far, just to clear this creep camp with all the dragons right away. Could have waited for this group of teal orcs to come to attack the base. Instead, we got them right after clearing out the ruby dragons, or the red dragons. These mirror images all suck.
Dropped a large tome. Is it magical?
It is a tome of demon lore. No doubt his comrades carry it as well.
I've encountered these demon-worshipping orcs before. How do they...
That, young one, is a very complicated matter. Suffice it to say, they no longer hold any favor with the Legion.
Throughout the campaign, and especially in the Orc campaign coming up after the Undead one, we are going to learn a lot more about the history of the Orcs and their relationship to the Burning Legion.
What is it now?
Also, that tome is not really a tome of demon lore, it's just a plain old manual of health, which are consumable items which boost stats. Each one of the heroes that you see listed in the top right, the Orc heroes, will drop a different tome. I think the one in this camp drops a tome of intelligence, which we're going to give to Kel'Thuzad, our Lich, to boost his int up just a little bit. It's like, I want to say it's +3 to that stat permanently, which is not bad. It's nothing to scoff at. But it's hardly a tome of demon lore. As long as that siege catapult in the back... Oh, he's moving up now. Yeah. Let's keep him alive as long as possible. And just kind of deal with all the production facilities. So we are probably not going to go around and eliminate all the Orc heroes, especially because some of the tomes are really only useful for Kel'Thuzad. Oh, that wagon is so dead. Stupid Farseer and all the raiders. Some of the tomes are really only particularly of use to Kel'Thuzad, and we, for one of the missions coming up, will not actually have control of him. And also, I don't think the stat boosts are necessarily worth it, just for the time that we're going to have to invest in going after all of the bases. We kind of have to go through at least one of them, because in the upper right, where the Demon Gate is, we have to destroy a different base, the Blackrock clan base, the red one, which means that we either come from the south side here, where the light blue orcs are, or the western side, where I think the orange ones are located. So either way, we have to deal with one of those two. We really managed to lose a lot of forces in that. Not that it's too relevant, because the bulk of our forces by the end of this will be comprised of Frostworms and Gargoyles. And the reason for that being is you saw how much work the Frostworms and the Gargoyles did when we just had a small number of them against the neutral camp of red dragons. Well, that's going to become a whole lot more relevant when we attack the Blackrock clan's base, because they have something that nobody else has had so far, which is a dragon roost, which is a production facility for red dragons. And boy, does that shit suck without adequate anti-air. They also don't have that much anti-air themselves, so if you just amass a large force of flying units and kind of traipse into that base, they don't have much of an answer for it. Might need this second acolyte on repair duty. The orange orcs came for this attack on the north side of the base at a really inopportune time for us, because we are in the middle of the upgrade between the Halls of the Dead and the Black Citadel, which means we don't have that extra bit of firepower from the main building. And that loses us a little bit of mining time, which also is not great. But pretty soon we're going to have the Orc Town Hall destroyed, and the peons will no longer be mining from this gold mine, so we can invest, or we can haunt that and start to double up our gold mining. Oh, come on, y'all are still trying to get in there. This is why we've been floating so much gold, just because I know that I'm going to expand, and the bulk of what I'm going to be spending my resources on will again be gargoyles and frost worms, both of which we only get access to at tier 3. I think I did lose, like, I did lose a decent number of gargoyles between the 3 fights that we've engaged in so far. But now our Black Citadel is done, and we can build a boneyard so we can start producing my sweet, precious frost worms. I think they are the coolest. Also, they very much appeal to that that early aughts, late 90s edgy aesthetic that I love. That fucking Spawn, Todd McFarlane aesthetic. That 90s aesthetic, you know? They just do it for me. And we even managed to keep one of the siege wagons alive. We're gonna get a disease cloud for it. Actually, no. That's gonna be a waste of resources.
Tread lightly. Frostborn hungers. Our forces are under attack.
And we still don't quite have an... let's drag everyone back to deal with this. Oh, the brown orcs are... They must be in the south, directly below the light blue one. So yeah, we will get attacked from all sides throughout this mission, but never in particularly threatening waves. Just as long as we have our Black Citadel and a couple of Spirit Towers, that should probably be enough to ward everything off until we are done with the mission. Might occasionally have to pull an acolyte away from mining, but that's fine.
My life.
And I don't think any of the acolytes got killed by the brown orcs, so I shouldn't have to produce any more. We don't have everything hotkeyed. That's a really decent upgrade, the Frost Breath for the frost worms, because it will cause the frost worms to freeze anything that they're hitting, which means towers no longer can attack while they're frozen in ice, and more importantly, buildings stop producing units or upgrades while they're frozen, which is so cool. But it's also pretty expensive, and frost worms themselves already take a long time to produce, and they themselves cost a substantial amount of gold and lumber. Part of the reason we needed that expansion, they're 450 apiece, plus the 120 lumber.
Our forces are under attack. Lightly.
Oh, where did you come from? That's not great.
No one.
Damn, there was an orb that we could have picked up at some point that would have given Arthas a ranged attack. That would have been nice. Ah, well, slight oversight. Get started on the next frost worm. Since we're like 75% of the way to the next one, or the current one, I should say. Not going to research stone form, since that won't be too particularly useful for us. We're just going to keep the flow of gargoyles steady. Again, they don't have a lot of ways to answer a large air force, aside from maybe a couple of headhunters, those spear-throwing enemies, and the guard towers. So as long as we take those out,
This camp guards the demon.
This will be fine.
Defeat these orcs quickly so that I can contact the demon lord.
Understood.
So we are very, very likely not going to win this fight outright. But we are going to just thin things out. And if we can get through a couple of the dragons before we have to reinforce, that's pretty good.
Speak.
Now what really sucks here is that these red dragons have access to that unholy frenzy effect, so they get the attack speed up. And that is overkill. They are OD as shit. Also, no, we're still okay on them.
Speak, fool.
I'm very likely gonna lose heroes in this fight.
This is more like
Or rather, in this mission. But that shouldn't be too big of a deal.
Frostborn hungers.
Oh, we want to keep that gargoyle alive, though.
This is more like it.
As long as the Blade Master of that camp gets killed first, before I lose any heroes, I'm kind of okay with that. I've accepted that fate. Especially Arthas. Like, Arthas really is only going to exist to Death Coil some injured flyers, and once he is out of mana, he is no longer useful. So we are just going to kind of concentrate on keeping him alive, so long as he has the mana to heal. And this is even nicer. We're drawing them out like one by one, which is kind of the plan with the downhill retreat. Didn't expect so many of them to follow, and follow kind of one by one, single file, like very bad Dota teammates. God damn it, why do people do that to me? I just won when one game is Naga Siren. Stop going in one by one. You can't win a 1v5 team fight. Don't do that.
We demand additional.
Oh, I'm getting salty all over again. I had a bad night spamming Naga Siren last night. Ugh. Fucking people. It's like we're one down in a team fight. One of us is in a different lane split pushing. I hit Song of the Siren so we can retreat, and everyone kind of half backs off. I'm booking ass way back to the base. We're deep, like between the tier 2s and the tier 3s and mid. And then instead of fully backing off, the song ends and one of them goes back in. Just one, 1v5. Dies, predictably. The other one goes in and dies. Losing the Lich is not ideal, but it's also not all that bad since we have so many flyers. The other one turns around and then goes in 1v5. Like, that's not gonna work. Oh, I'm salty. Salty about last night. Do not have a fun time playing that hero. Oh, right, we don't have to destroy the Demon Gate. We just have to secure it by destroying the base. And a really nice way to do that will be annihilating this Dragon Roost so they can no longer produce these really problematic giant red drakes. And we could start to revive the two heroes. Not that it's going to matter too much. The Lich is going to have more of an impact, to be honest. Arthas doesn't really get it done in this mission. But you can see we're just in the base and it's more or less uncontested. I made a little snip because they didn't just want us to destroy the meaningful buildings. This mission calls for the destruction of every spot of red on the map. Even the bunkers.
The Demon Gate is yours, Lich.
I call upon thee, Archimonde. Your humble servant seeks an audience.
You called my name, puny Lich, and I have come. You are Kel'Thuzad, are you not?
Yes, Great One. I am the summoner.
Very well then. There is a special tome you must find. The only remaining spellbook of Medivh, the Last Guardian. Only his lost incantations are powerful enough to bring me into your world.
Where should we search for it, Great One?
Seek out the mortal city of Dalaran. It is there that the tome is kept. At twilight, 3 days from now, you will begin the summoning.
Alright, so I don't really think that is sufficient for an entire episode, so we're going to pack in the next one as well. The next morning at the gates of Dalaran.
Wizards of the Kirin Tor, I am Arthas, first of the Lich King's Death Knights. I demand that you open your gates and surrender to the might of the Scourge.
Greetings, Prince Arthas. How fares your noble father?
Lord Antonidas, there's no need to be snide.
We've prepared for your coming, Arthas. My brethren and I have erected auras that will destroy any undead that pass through them.
Your petty magics will not stop me, Antonidas.
Pull your troops back, or we will be forced to unleash our full powers against you. Make your choice, Death Knight.
I sense that 3 separate wizards are maintaining these auras. If you find and kill them, the auras will disperse.
Speak.
Alright, so there are 3 Archmages in total. Each Archmage is projecting one of those sparkly violet fields, which is actually like hundreds of doodads placed on the map. Whenever one of our units enters the field, they will turn purple as a visual indicator, and they will take heavy damage over time until the Archmage for that area is dead. Don't really know what the use of having the extra acolytes is, unless it's just to convert them into shades when we upgrade to the Black Citadel and get the sacrificial pit going. There might be expansion opportunities, but I don't really think we're going to need them. Even though we will lose a decent number of units. So because of this... Oh, yeah. Like, look how quickly that ticks down. We haven't even started fighting yet. So what a perfect time to be gifted another one of my undead favorites, which is the Abomination, the stitched together amalgamation of different corpses. Abominations, like meat wagons, also can benefit from the disease cloud upgrade at the slaughterhouse. So there are big, tanky frontliners.
The first aura is dispersing.
They're the tanky frontliners who can survive a fair while in the Archmage DOT aura. Oh, I'm glad we have that fully upgraded Death Coil now. That can just one-shot sorceresses and priests. The meat wagons, even though they are mechanical and not undead, they are still affected by the aura, which sucks. And we have... Oh, no, not quite.
Keeps these creatures caged for study. If they were to be released, they would cause our enemies a great deal of pain.
I bow to you. I cannot summon there. Speak.
Still waiting on that Black Citadel so we can start producing abominations.
No one orders me.
The cages that Kel'Thuzad was just talking about are these ones right here. These are part of the reason why we aren't actually going to need to expand in order to have enough forces to do this. We'll get a couple of neutrals out of here. Now, they shouldn't be affected by the aura, but I'm pretty sure they are. We'll see in a second. Once we start going after the second Archmage. First, we have a town to get through. I actually forgot there were these brief encampment fights on top of the units you had to get through to get to the Archmages and the Auras. Ah, man. I didn't have the mana to Death Coil the A-bomb, and I realized it too late to pull him back. Oh well, he wasn't long for this world anyway. We do have our Black Citadel now. So we just met Archimon at the end of the last mission. We've seen the Dreadlords, we've seen some Pit Lords. We've heard plenty about the Burning Legion now, this otherworldly demonic force that just roams around swallowing up planets. There was originally a fifth faction, a fifth race planned for the game. Instead of Undead, Human, Orc, and Night Elf, it was going to be those four and the Burning Legion. And recently I even found out they wanted to do 6, with the 6th race potentially being goblins.
At last.
Are they... Oh, do they have production facilities up the hill? I guess they do. But 6 separate races was way, way too hard for them to balance, so they pared it back to the 4 that we have now. Intrepid map makers made tons of otherwise normal, standard melee maps that had additional factions, including the Burning Legion. No, I also saw Naga in there, Draenei, Blood Elf races and custom maps, all sorts of again, normal, standard maps, except they just added entire extra races to the game. Oh man, how could I forget with all this talk of map making recently? Legion TD, Legion Tower Defense, one of the most popular tower defense maps outside of Wintermaw, had a Kickstarter 2 years ago. Someone in the comments availed me of this. Yeah, they put a Kickstarter out like 2 years ago for the sequel that I did not even know existed, and it actually came out on early access in November of last year.
At last. Tread light.
I have got to play that. Probably do a quick look. So we're gonna get that disease upgrade for the abominations, make them a little bit more potent against everything that we're going up against. Then we will just A-click everyone over to the Archmage. They're even nice enough to put the health fountain in here, which helps to offset some of this damage over time that we're taking. You only get 3 for respite. Oh, where the hell is everyone? How did we get... Are we split up? This is not good. Why the fuck are y'all over here? Uh-oh. They stopped up the hill instead of going right to Antonidas. Or not Antonidas, the other Archmage. Andronoth. Oh, that sucks. We lost a lot of stuff in a really stupid way. So what I think happened is while I was talking and kind of zoning, is this force of units came over on the flank from the right, and since I was on A-click, half of my units had already moved up and they were still on the path to the Archmage, and then the other ones just started auto-attacking the flank, and that split them up effectively. Oh, that sucks.
At last.
So we do have to rebuild a little bit.
Finally.
This'll help. This'll help. But really, you've seen that it's not all that hard to get to the Archmages and to kill them, and that's really all we have to do, so we can kind of just zerg them down. You know, that's also a really big mistake that I've made, is prioritizing upgrades for the Crypt Fiends. I've been getting the ranged upgrades for some reason. Must hear and obey. Really love all the voice lines. Also, big shout outs to the dude who is compiling like a detailed list of how many times Arthas says each of his voice lines. I believe that is flopped M in the comments. Thank you so much. I do not know why you are doing this,
Many enchanted items within that vault.
but your dedication is so admirable.
Can turn our enemy's own weapons against them.
I always appreciate a good gimmick. So we're going to take Kel'Thuzad, and we are going to use his ult, Death and Decay. This is a channeled spell that targets an area, and anything that resides in that area will lose a percentage of its max HP over time. That affects both units and buildings. So he's a pretty good siege and kind of push hero. And he just denies an area.
Forces are under attack.
Speak, fool.
Oh, this is going to be a whole thing.
At last.
At least we're not dealing with the aura yet. Oh, this is lies. More than one Archmage remains. There's one right there up the hill casting Blizzard on all my shit.
What is it
More gold.
We need a little tiny bit more. Must hear and obey.
round? This is more like it.
Let's get that vault open first. I don't remember what's in there. Something that's bound to be useful. I think it's... Is that a pipe of insight?
No one orders me around.
Yeah, and a tome of knowledge.
Yours.
So I believe the pipe of insight gives everybody a little bit of extra magic damage protection.
At last.
Proceed.
More gold is required.
Speak, fool.
And that will help reinforce a little bit easier because the pathing for flying units is just straightforward, whereas ground units have to kind of observe the terrain. So flying units will get to us a little bit faster.
More gold
No
is
one
required.
orders me around.
We are sufficiently restocked now. Let's click up the hill. Fuck. Losing the little bit of DPS time. Oh, you just saw the Lich miss up the hill. That is actually a mechanic they implemented to give the defenders a little bit more of an advantage. May have talked about this before. He's missing quite a bit. There is a percentage chance to miss any attacks going uphill.
Tread lightly.
And I don't remember exactly what that chance is. I think it's 25%. So it makes it a little bit easier to hold a high ground.
Our forces are under attack.
I'll make sure.
Makes really cheesy kind of all-in rush strats just a little bit harder to execute. Like, you have to be a bit tighter to pull something like that off.
More gold
Tread
is
lightly.
required.
And then we are actually not going to stick around to deal with the production facilities for too long. We are going to take out the castle, just so it doesn't, just so they can't keep producing peasants, getting gold, and making units. This is another way to cripple an economy. Just take out the main structure, make sure they can't mine gold. They can't mine, they cannot produce. Can't afford anything, which is not all that problematic. It would be nice though. It'd be nice to have the extra little bit of meat, the extra little bit of juice.
This is more like it.
Now we can do we want to deal with the Arcane Sanctum since it's producing currently? Yeah, I think so. And then after this, oh, that's the gargoyle passing over Grey Camp with a couple of riflemen. Not too bad. Now we can go after the final Archmage, and we can just go straight at him.
Our town is under attack.
Really, we are not even going to stick around to bust the cages. Oh, these... So, what the sorceresses do, I don't know if I actually showed their abilities while we were doing the human campaign. They cast slow as an autocast, And they can also polymorph, which turns your units into sheep temporarily. Just harmless sheep. Oh man, if we could get a little bit closer to the fountain. Yeah. Yeah.
At last.
Oh, that's nice.
Finally.
And we're gonna have to haul ass
At last.
killing the Archmage. Just go all in on him. Because otherwise... Oh yeah, and he's surrounded with all the towers too. This should be okay though. No, why won't he die? That's a problem. Oh, there it is. It's completed.
It pains me to even look at you, Arthas.
I'll be happy to end your torment, old man. I told you that your magics could not stop me. The spellbook is all yours, Lich. Let's take it and leave before the wizards amass for their final attack.
Indeed. I will begin summoning Lord Archimond at sunset.
Alright, thank you all for watching. Take it easy. Have a good one.